Hello everyone, my name is Akale, and this is Tier 1 Gaming. Today I want to talk about Destiny. Yep, just like everyone else on the internet right now, I'm gonna join in and say my 2 cents about this game. Now before I get started, I want to say that this is just my personal opinion about the game, and yours will most likely differ greatly. And that's perfectly fine, and I welcome you guys' opinions. So let's get started, shall we? First thing I want to establish is what genre is this game really? Because Destiny takes cues from many very different games and game genres and sort of throws them all together into one big game. And so this really makes it kind of a hard thing to nail down. But after playing through the game several times, well, clocking just around 120 hours on it, it seems like the game more strongly leans into the first-person shooter and dungeon crawler genres. I personally feel like if I was asked to describe this game, it could be done pretty well by saying it's a Diablo for FPS gamers. And this is where we actually went into the first reason why so many people were really unsatisfied and disappointed with this game only a few hours after booting it up for the first time. Destiny was really built up in this advertisement to be a much broader experience than it actually is. People were saying it was going to be like Halo plus World of Warcraft, Skyrim with space guns, and an open world of discovery and mystique. The action gameplay of a competitive shooter combined with the depth of a story-driven AAA role-playing game. And this means Bungie was drawing in people who weren't FPS gamers to their new creation. And this is not a good thing, guys. When Destiny brought in people who were used to playing WoW, or people who just finished a story-driven game like Last of Us, they set themselves up to fail. Like, drastically fail. Because Bungie makes shooter games, guys. Just period. If you aren't a shooter gamer, you're gonna get bored of Destiny much faster than if you were one. You see, if you compare Destiny to anything other than a shooter, like say if you compare it to an MMO, it's gonna fall flat. If you compare it to an RPG, it's gonna fall flat. Because of its core, at its core, Destiny is just another FPS. But it's not an RPG, it's not an MMO, and it's not an open world adventure. However, because it still takes, pretty large gameplay elements from these other genres and mixes them all together, when you compare Destiny to other first-person shooters of the period, it really stands out in its own territory. And this is where Destiny truly shines, because in what other shooter can you go gather loot, create unique avatars and ships, compete in both multiplayer and PvE events? In what other shooter can you walk around with your weapon holstered and mingle with other warriors to try and make a group or get friends, or just to see what their armor looks like, In what other shooters do they have, dynamic subclasses that actually sort of change how you can use your character on the battlefield and how you can influence the tide of the battle? I could keep going, but I think I've made my point that this isn't just your average shooter. And the next thing I want to address is the class system, because in Destiny, classes in this game, are really only very slightly different. And the game takes so much flack for this, like an unbelievable amount of hate coming to it just for this class system. And people are so upset that the core gameplay for each class is essentially the same. But let's flip this around, shall we? Let's say that Destiny's class systems operated like traditional MMOs. Titans are now tanks, which are meant to draw aggro and take massive amounts of damage without dying. Hunters are going to be pure DPS now, designed to deal as much damage on a single target while avoiding enemy fire. Warlocks are going to now be support, and crowd control objects pretty much means they're going to have healing abilities and area of effect damage. This may seem great on paper, but here's the thing, guys, they'd have to completely rework almost every single system in Destiny and make it an entirely different game. In PvP, this would be a total crap system, because in a competitive shooter, you really need to have equivalence between all players. They all need to have around the same amount of HP and the same ability to deal damage for it to be a fair and fun experience. This means that everyone would pretty much be playing the Hunter class, because no other classes could really deal damage. This would be terrible for competitive PvP, even though it might sound good for PvE too. I mean, the PvE in this game isn't really that well drawn out. I mean, let's be honest, Bungie's strong suit is not player versus environment. And, because of this would also change the way the story would have to be told, because in the story you're sort of a guardian that stands out among the rest. If you can't fill the super soldier protecting humanity theme, then all of a sudden the story no longer makes sense, and you can't if you can't hold your own against the armies of darkness with or without help, then why is that exo lady even talking to you? Now I know I have, been defending the game so far, but that's not to say I'm oblivious to its blatant problems. The story missions, dilute down to defending Dinklebot while he is doing an action, and every boss is essentially a bullet sponge. And even though the strikes, they really start out as fun mini raids that are really cool and really unique, but the game decides to force you to replay them over and over and over again until they just get stale, and it just becomes a chore. And, hell, even the Vault of Glass, which is without a doubt the best player versus environment experience in Destiny, that has no matchmaking system. So if you don't have 5 friends with this game all in the same system, or you can't find a group in the tower for this, then you can't just straight up can't play this. I have spent 120 hours on Destiny, and I have 4 other friends, and I can get a group of 5 people, but I can't get a group of 6, so I can't play the strike. And I still haven't beaten it. I've gone through the first part, and that's it. And that's bullshit to me. I think, it should be a way to find that one extra player we need, just so we could, hop in and just finally do that. Because I really want to beat that vault. Anyways, moving on. I want to talk about the big backbone of this game, which is Destiny's player versus player. The gunplay and map design is superb. They balance the class system, and it really creates an interesting slew of tactics you have at your disposal depending on what class you're playing as. Do I go with the golden gun or with the blade dancer? Do I want the Nova bomb or the ability to revive myself? I don't know the Titan's abilities, but but really it just adds in a lot of really good, meta game to the core shooter elements. All in all, Destiny's PvP is probably their greatest achievement, to date. But here's the thing, it would be amazing if it actually worked when you wanted it to. I love the idea of, gathering gear and player versus environment to gain an advantage in PvP. And hell, I love every mechanic of PvP, to be honest. But Bungie just really fucked it up. The servers would constantly kick you from a match whenever you're doing good. Kill trades are almost constant, and you would be shot around corners or you would get kills minutes after they've already killed you because your damage arrived late. Most of this has been fixed by now, luckily, but that does not excuse it whatsoever. Like I said earlier, Bungie is an established FPS game studio, and somehow their 6v6 multiplayer had more netcode issues than launch day Battlefield 4 did. What the hell, Bungie? These problems should never have made it past the beta tests. And this trend of releasing half-finished broken games is very discouraging to me as a gamer. All that aside, I really do see potential for Destiny to develop something like a competitive scene with MOG or ESL, because the PvP is so well pulled off. All they would need to do this is implement a way to arrange matches, which is they really should have had in from the start. Also, adding in a spectator system wouldn't hurt. Despite all this, I have to say that I personally do love the game, and I'm hopefully looking towards its future in the upcoming DLCs. I've already bought my season pass, and I'm looking forward to playing the new content. Well guys, that was my opinion, but I want to hear yours. What has your experience with the game been like so far, and do you agree with what I say? Or am I just a blithering idiot who doesn't know what I'm talking about? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.